Hello students, welcome Hoshamdi and Hosh Galdanes. Today I am going to have a discussion with you on a very interesting topic that is very important for all of us to have an insight in. To me, I can take it as the origin of literature. Today, I'm going to discuss with you, we are going to have a light discussion on the origin of literature or the origin of the creation of literature. And gradually, we will switch to the Greek mythology because our sole focus is English literature, and Greek mythology is a driving force of English literature because when we study the Renaissance time period and the medieval time period, on that time we have come to know that after the fall of Constantinople, means the emergence of Renaissance, the whole literature, the whole lot of English literature got inspiration from Greek and classical myths, and Greek and classical mythology is the focal factor of the English literature of a Renaissance time period. And not only of Renaissance time period, the Renaissance time period is basically the start of that kind of literature. In the modern literature, even we can find the traces of mythology. A very celebrated modern piece of writing, The Wasteland, is also based on classical Greek mythology, and it has characters from Greek mythology. So, I think it's very important to discuss the origin of literature and the origin of Greek mythology first. A very interesting fact that we have come to know when we probe deep into the history of literature, when we probe deep into the origin of literature, that when we trace the history of literature and the creation of literature, then a very fascinating things that hits our mind is that the historical origin of literature just has taken a rise from the religious theology. Means the religion somewhere is working at the back of the creation of literature. The first and foremost important literature, or the first and foremost type of literature, and the first and foremost shape of literature is basically not the literature we are going through right now, but it is actually the literature that comes from the religion, different books of religion that are carrying the stories of a human race, and the stories of how human beings are facing different sort of issues while rising towards civilization, and how they are facing the different forces of nature, and how they are busy in taming those up or being tamed by them. The whole lot of literature initially begins from this kind of religious stories and religious theologies. So, literature has its basis in religion, somewhere, or at least in religious theology. The the first and foremost stories or fables are actually the stories that have come from various religious books, or from different religious theologies. Those early stories are actually based on the myths, and those myths aim to explore the various human concerns. They are rather a mode of expression of human race and the multiple issues they have on that time, on different levels of their development, means on the different level of the development of a civilized society. Those stories are based on how human beings have come in terms with the forces of nature, and and how they have tried to tame those forces of nature, or how they have tamed themselves according to the demands of those forces of nature. Like in mythologies, we find them worshipping sun. We find them worshipping moons. We find them worshipping the thunderstorm, and we have also found that in the ancient theologies we find different gods and goddesses associated with these objects of nature, like sun and moon. Particularly my focus is Greek mythology, and in Greek mythology Zeus is taken as the god of sun. And this type of things are not are on the basis of literature, are on the basis of the creation of literature. And there's not only Greek mythology, there are a lot of mythologies, theologies. Myth is actually a term we use for such kind of stories, but myth has its origin in Greek terminology, and its coinage is Greek. Its origin is Greek, but I'm using this term now holistically for the whole lot of those theological stories we can consider as myths. So these myths are not only Greek, these myths are Greek, Roman, Indian, Iranian, German, Russian, and even Scandinavian. But when we talk about the origin of English literature, then we have to probe deep into the Roman and Greek mythology, because the in the basis of the English literature there is Greek mythology that is working. Because after the fall of Constantinople, when the Greek and Latin knowledge was taken, and Roman knowledge was, and philosophies and books were taken to England, and they got translated over there, and they got published over there, and they got in access of academia over there in England. Then they caused the emergence of humanism, and then there came a revolution that we all know as Renaissance, the revival and rebirth of mankind and knowledge. So Greek mythology has a very important role, and in on that time we find the classical Greek mythological characters as the focal characters of Renaissance literature. Like in Marlowe, we find references of Greek mythology and the characters of Greek mythology, like Helen of Troy. We find the reference of Helen of Troy, and Helen of Troy, as we all know, is considered the most beautiful woman of the world on that time in Athens, Greece. Let's move on further on this domain of Greek mythology. The very term myth, when we talk about the Greek mythology, then the very term myth means a story of some legend, most probably in pagan religions, in pagans, because myths are associated with pagan religions. And it's the story of some legend that is religiously acknowledged, and that legend is mostly termed as some god or goddesses in those mythological in those religions, in those pagan religions. So myths are narratives about the divine and heroic beings of mythology. They pass from generation to generation, and mythology in modern times is associated with especially the literature. So in order to understand the very concept of literature, the very concepts of English literature, we have to go through a bit of Greek mythology. Basically all the religions, in revealed as well as pagan, they all have stories of their legends, of their heroes, of their prophets, who have made some remarkable deeds on their times, and they are remembered, and those stories are told, and those stories are traveled from one generation to the other generation in order to get some lessons from them, in order to enlighten the way of the coming generation. So the very concept is also present in revealed religions, but in revealed religions we don't call the stories of our prophets as myths. So myth is specifically the term that is associated with Greek mythology, Greek mythos, or the Greek stories. Okay, when we talk about English literature and the relationship between English literature and Greek mythology, then there comes a few things. There come a few things that we can easily associate with each other. English literature, the whole lot of or not only in English literature but in the European literature, the whole lot of European literature, the literature of Homer, the literature of Pindar, they are all inspired of the Greek and Roman mythologies, like Odyssey, Iliad, and these are the stories of Greek legends. Or like Odyssey is the story of Odysseus, who was a Greek hero, and the Odyssey is an epic that is based on his heroic deeds. So the whole classical lot of literature is inspired of Greek mythology. Then in when we come to drama, then we also find traces in the existence of drama as traces in Greek mythology, because drama was first produced in ancient Greek time period, and it was normally used to celebrate the greatness of their gods, and to promote their and to please their gods, in short we can say, because they used to have festivals and they perform those dramas on those festivals in order to please their gods, and those festivals have some religious significance on that time. Then comes the origin of drama, English drama. Then in the classical drama, in the courses of classical drama, we normally take a start from the Greek dramas, the classical dramas of Aeschylus, like Agamemnon by Aeschylus, and Oedipus Rex by Sophocles, or we used to teach Medea by Euripides. So this is how the classical poetry and classical drama take its origin from the Greek mythology. In classical poetry, when even we if we study John Milton, we find the very elements of Greek mythology in his Paradise Lost as well. And he himself was a very renowned and profound scholar of classical philosophies and classical knowledge. So it's a very obvious thing that his literary creations are based on the Greek philosophy. So our English classical drama and our English classical poetry just solely got its origin has from the ancient Greek myths and Greek mythology. And not only those classical dramas and classical poetry, but even in the modern time period, the drama and poetry still have effects of Greek mythology on it. Although in our modern time period we have a lot of innovations in the field of drama, and we have introduced a lot of varieties of in poetry and in drama, and in different sort of theaters are emerged in the modern time period, but still there are traces of Greek and Roman mythologies on our modern poetry and our modern drama. So today I am just taking a light discussion with you on the origin of the literary creations and how our English literature has got its roots from the ancient Greek and Roman mythologies. I have a plan to discuss different mythologies with you, which are very important and which have influence on our poetry and drama. but we will have a separate session for that. Thank you so much for today. Allah Hafiz.